After a couple years in your agency, you know, you got started by accident. What was a big challenge that really kept you up at night?
Yeah, I think when you're growing, every new kind of inflection point in your growth brings new challenges. And, for a while there you can get away with doing everything yourself, but I think and that's actually a good thing. I think that doing everything yourself in the business early on allows you to see every role within the company and how to hire for it. So I wouldn't have done anything differently on that front, but what's really great is that you're able to take that learning and then know how to apply it when you go to hire. So I think hiring is always a challenge, right? Because you want to try to find somebody that can replicate how you do it, and hopefully better. So I think some of the early challenges was, how do you bring in the right people? Who do you prioritize as your first hire, right? As you're growing, there may be salesperson, it may be somebody that actually can be the activator and do the work. So that was challenging of kind of identifying who to hire first and exactly who to hire. I think is a challenge.
Did you ever go through a part? I know there's a lot of agencies that we kind of know, and we've talked a lot about who to first hire, right? And it really depends on, you really kind of yourself, like, are you really good at sales? Are you really good in operations, right? And hire the opposite. But have you ever been at a situation where you hired too many people?
Yes. Yeah.
And how did, like, what was the thinking about getting to that scenario? And then how did you get out of it?
Yeah. I think that's a really great question. I think a lot of your listeners probably have done this before where you get really optimistic about, well, if I just hire, I'll have the, clients to support it. And you're kind of in that balancing act of, how many employees is right for the number of clients you have. It's a utilization thing. And so, I think what we did is we started growing a lot. And so I took that as, well, let's hire a lot. And that's not always the best route because then you're really just trying to kind of plug holes as you're, in your case, you're flying a plane while you're building it, which is fine. But I think, again, sometimes it can be problematic because not only does it hurt profitability, but you're not really kind of focused on training that person up, getting them into the role that you really need them to be. They're just kind of there solving a problem. And sometimes it works. If you're growing at a fast pace, there's not a ton of other options, but it's really about how you course correct when you realize that, hey, you know what, maybe we did overhire, and how do we combat that? Is it we need to now invest more into sales to kind of make up for that, or do we need to kind of take a step back so we can accelerate forward? So yeah, it's a balancing game.
What's your philosophy, or what's your process for when to hire now? Like, you have around 50 people full time.
hmm
So, how do you know when to hire next and how many?
Yeah. So last couple of years, that was a big focus of utilization rate, and I think this is something to really take note of. If you're an agency owner that's starting to get to that next level where you really need to have time tracking and see is your team allocating at least 90%. I think that maybe golden rule might be 80, 85% or something like that, but we look at 90% on just client work, the other 10% kind of dedicated towards anything related to the company, more high level stuff. But I think it's really important to look at that utilization rate, and it's not always going to be 100% accurate, but it can be pretty darn close. So I think it's good to look at that, and then once you've really kind of maxed out, I think that is time to start looking. And then you also have to look at really what's in the pipeline, and also not be afraid to be really take a detailed dive into, like, is this business going to close? If it is, let's make sure we're prepared for it. So we also grade kind of our lead flow based off of like high certainty, medium certainty, and low certainty. And that also plays a role into how we hire.
I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.